Hey, Shalom, Shalom. I want to start off so by giving no praise to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh, Shah, Bahashem Kadash, double honors to the apostles of GMS, and honors to brothers doing the work of the Most High in truth and in sincerity. This one is inspired by watching a video of Apostle Ramlab, basically how you have certain of these people that be like, oh, the Bible's not true because the creation story, blah 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 blah. That's what some people be like, the creation story is, it's similar to another creation story, but these are the same people that will, not believe in Yahweh Shai because they'll be like, well, that's only in one source. So is it many sources or is it one source? Right, it's having lots of different people all having a similar count, this good or not, right? So but that's beside the point, right? So but there was a statement that the apostle made in this video where he basically said they were all talking about it, paraphrasing, right? And I've just got a few accounts in the scriptures where this is true because this was a major thing that happened. Is in I'm gonna get a few accounts of the deliverance of Egypt, right? But this is what's recorded in the scriptures, the deliverance of Egypt, right? And you got different accounts. It was like, the neighboring people heard. Why? Just to prove that things that were happening were basically spoken verbally. People would hear certain stories, right? And you think people wouldn't write these things down, right? Okay, so this is Joshua 2 and 9. It says, and she said unto the men, right? It says, I know that Yahweh hath given you the land, and that your terror has fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land faint because of you. For we had heard how the Lord Yahweh dried up the water of the Red Sea for you, right? And when you came out of Egypt, and what ye did unto the kings of the Amorites that were on the other side Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom ye utterly destroyed. As soon as we heard these things, our hearts did melt, neither did there remain any more courage in any man because of you. For Yahweh, your power, he is God in heaven above and in earth beneath. Right? So basically what Rahab was saying is, look, man, hey, we've heard everything. We've heard the whole story. We've heard the account of how your Lord delivered you out of the land of Egypt. Right now, you then gonna tell me that other accounts, other stories that the Hebrews spoke, other stories that the Hebrews had encountered and things like that weren't spread, right? Imagine this is one of the this was a great deliverance from Egypt, right? But you think what Noah and then his three sons didn't speak about, would you call it, how the old world was destroyed, and that would have been passed along as a story. Because why? Because that was a major, that was a major destruction. That was the first death, right? So if something like the deliverance from Egypt, which was a major deliverance, was spoken about and noised abroad, right? How much more so the first death, right? And even more so the second death, which is to come by way of fire, right? Because the thing with at first the first death and in times past, things were spoken, right? Things were written, right? But this time, right, this destruction is going to be it's going to be televised. Right, so it's going, this destruction is going to be, every eye is going to see. It's Revelation 1 and 7. So behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him, even so among. Right, it says, all eyes going to see Yahweh Shai returning in them chariots, man. Right, with the hosts of heaven. Right, everyone's going to see and be witness to it. Right, people are going to know how the Lord took out America, how the Lord destroyed, that wicked kingdom, right? And that's going to be spoken. That's going to be spoken about, right? That's going to be a memorial. You read the scripture, it says that's going to be a new high holy day, right? This is Jeremiah 16:14. It says, therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that it shall no more be said, Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children, which Yahweh, that's the real name of the Most High, and Yahweh Shai is the real name of his son, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, right? It says, Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out. So let me stop from the top again. So therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that it shall no more be said, Yahweh liveth that brought up the children of Israel of the land of Egypt, but Yahweh liveth that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I'll bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers, right? Which the land of the north here, that's referring to, America. All right, so this destruction is going to be so great that it's going to eclipse Egypt, and it's going to be spoken about. Why? Because these things, these natural events, are things that we all will be speaking about, just like how we speak about the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? To bring things into modern day times, just like how we speak about World War I, World War II, right? How we speak about 9/11, right? All of these different, even the destruction of Kosovo, right? All of these different things are things that we all speak about in this modern day. Now, we weren't there to witness it, right? But these were major events. So just like how we had Rahab here, basically saying, look, man, look, we heard how the Lord delivered you out of Egypt. Why? Because it was a major deliverance, right? You think that there was only ever going to be one account of the deliverance from the first death, right? For Noah and his sons and their wives, right? No, there were going to be, different accounts, because people were going to retell the stories, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm gonna be telling, Lord's will be of the elect. I'm gonna be telling my children about the deliverance from this wicked kingdom. I'm like, yeah, man, So there was this man E, right? You see that little pink devil over there? Him? What? He ruled the world, daddy? I'm like, yeah, he did, Khan. And they're gonna be like, say it ain't so, but say it ain't so, right? So if we're gonna be telling our children about the destruction to come, then of course, Noah and his sons would have spoken, to their children, their grandchildren about, the destruction of the old world, and in such, in this flesh, right? Things get things, the story, by way of these other heathens, the way that they have recounted it, they would have added their little bits in, right? And hey, things change as you retell stories, man. That's why you get that game Chinese Whispers, man, right? But we know that the account in the scriptures is the accurate account, right? And even on that, yeah, you've got two accounts in the scriptures of the creation story. You've got what Second Ezra, the 6th chapter, right? And also Genesis, right? So we're gonna discount one because the other was written first. No, we're gonna believe all of them, right? In the scriptures, because the scriptures is the truth, right? This is Isaiah 34:16. It says, seek ye out the book of the Lord Yahweh and read. None of these shall fail. None shall want her mate. And that none shall want her mate is basically saying that you can't mate the scriptures with anything else. You can't mix the scriptures with something else, because the scriptures are final. If the scriptures don't corroborate, the scriptures of the Holy Bible, if they don't, corroborate anything else that you're reading, forget it, right? Because this is where it's at, nothing else, right? It's for my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them. I'll get this in Ecclesiastes also. Ecclesiastes 12:12 says, and further by these, my son, be admonished of making many books. There is no end, and much study is weariness of the flesh, right? Because you get all these people that be, Apostle touched on this in his video as well. You get all these people that be going into this book, that book, this book, that book. But at the end of the day, it's just about the scriptures, man. Like, that's the main thing, right? And once you're grounded in the scriptures, then you can start looking into these other things, right? Because if you're not grounded and you start reading, start going into this and the other, you can end up getting bugged out, man. I remember, when I first came and I read, what was it, Babylon to Timbuktu, and it was basically saying how these Edom, so-called white people, they got the way they look, right, from a genetic mutation, or some crap like that. From remembering, I believe it was Babylon to Timbuktu, right? I was kind of going with that, but then you read the scriptures and it's like, nah, that was just the curse that the Lord put upon this devil, man. right? From the womb, Ishashua, right? Which is what Esau means. Ishashua, wasted away is he. Okay. So I'm going to get another account. This is Joshua 9. Just gonna skim through it real quick, just get the main points. Right. So Joshua 9:3 says, and when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done unto Jericho and unto Ai. So once again, these, I believe, goes on to say that they're Hivites, right? One of the descendants of Canaan, right? Basically, they had heard what, Joshua had done, to other people. Why? Because these stories were being recounted, these stories were being retold, right? Why? For the fear, right? So then they did work willingly, and went and made as if they had been ambassadors, and took old sacks upon their asses, and wine bottles old and rent and bound up, and old shoes and clouted upon their feet, and old garments upon them, and all the bread of their provision was dry and mouldy. And when they went to Joshua unto the camp at Gilgal, and said unto him and to the men of Israel, We be come from a far country, now therefore make ye league with us. And the men of Israel said unto the Hivites, Peradventure ye dwell among us, and how shall we make a league with you? And they said unto Joshua, We are thy servants. And Joshua said unto them, Who are ye, and from whence come ye? They said unto him, From a very far country thy servants are come, because of the name of Yahweh thy power, for we have heard of the fame of him and all that he did in Egypt. Right? So once again, these are the Hivites. They were local. And you read into it, you realize that they were local, right? But that doesn't take away from the fact that the account of the deliverance of Israel was said unto them, right? They were aware of it. Right? Why? Because it was a great deliverance, and it would have sent shockwaves throughout the nations, man. Right? People would be like, "Yo, hey, what happened?" They're gonna be like, "What? Yo, for real?" So nah, man, I'm messing with them Israelites. I ain't doing that, right? I'm laughing and joking, but you hear someone gets delivered in that way, and you're gonna be like, "Yo, who's that God?" Look, I ain't trying to mess with that God. That's what they would have been going on, right? So once again, just like how this happened with the deliverance from Egypt, this would have been happening also after the destruction, after the first death, after the flood. Okay. Joshua 10:1 says, and now it came to pass when Adonai Zedek, king of Jerusalem, had heard how Joshua had taken Ai and had utterly destroyed it, as he had done to Jericho and her king, so he had done to Ai and her king. Now the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were among them. So all of these different stories, right, were basically being passed along, right, so that that other people may fear, right, so that things were made account of. But basically the point was, that these things were being spread abroad, right? People were speaking. Okay, now Adonai Zedek's account may have been slightly differently to the one that which was written in the scriptures. We don't know, right? But what we do know is that the scriptures is where it's at, right? And once again, as the apostle mentioned in his video, man, this is just all of these different books, all these different theologies, man. These are just stumbling blocks for those that aren't meant to get it ultimately, right? Because the scriptures say this, right? This is 2 Corinthians 4:3, right? It says, if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost. And that's it. It's that simple. If you can't get it, man, it's because you was meant to get it. It ain't for you, and that's just it, man. Right? So the scripture said, Revelation 22:11 says, let him that be filthy be filthy still. Okay? If you can't get it, look, man, as our teachers before said, man, look, we moving on, man. Right, this is Joshua 5:1. And it came to pass when all the kings of the Amorites, which were on this side Jordan westward, and all the kings of the Canaanites, which were by the sea, had heard that Yahweh hath dried up the waters of Jordan from before the children of Israel, until we were passed over, that their heart melted, neither was their spirit in them any more, because of the children of Israel. Right, so here another account of these different, heathens that were round about Israel, recounting stories and spreading stories abroad of the way that the Lord hath delivered. Right? So, you know, that's just to prove the statement the apostle made. They were all speaking about it, right? They were all talking about the, you know, the deliverance from the first death. They were all talking about the deliverance from Egypt. They were all talking about how the Lord had dried up, you know, the Jordan for the children of Israel, man. All these different things, these different heathens were speaking about it, man. Right? And they all gonna be speaking about the deliverance from, you know, the land of the north, from America, right? Which is ultimately why, you know, we're being delivered in the first place, right? You know, because the Lord wants to, you know, get that respect back upon his name, right? See if there was something, right? Because this is all about putting respect upon, you know, the Lord's name, okay? Um, This is Ezekiel 36 and 21. It says, but I had pity for mine holy name, which the house of Israel have profaned among the heathen whither they went. Right, therefore say unto the house of Israel, thus saith the Lord, power, do not this for your sakes, O house of Israel, but for mine holy name's sake, which ye have profaned among the heathen whither ye went. Right, and I will sanctify my great name, which was profaned among the heathen, which ye have profaned in the midst of them. And the heathen shall know that I am Yahweh, saith the Lord power, when I shall be sanctified in you before their eyes. Right, so that they can speak about it again. Right, so they can speak about it again and be like, oh man, these are the children of Israel, man. Yeah, don't mess with their power. Right, end of 1 Moses wisdom, the 5th chapter, then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him. Right, starting off with the, you know, our apostles and their teachers on down. Okay, it says, and made no account of his labors, because they don't take the account of any of the labors that we have performed. Okay, it says, when they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation. Why? Because we're going to be delivered by them chariots, which so-called white man calls UFOs. Right, but they're identified in the scriptures. Okay, sometimes referred to as clouds, right? Sometimes just as chariots. Okay, and they repenting and groaning for anguish of spirit shall say within themselves, this was he whom he had sometimes in derision and a proverb of reproach. Right, so because right now these different heathens, they think of us as nothing, right? But the Lord is going to prove them wrong, and the Lord's going to show, you know, show who the real, you know, real kings of this earth are, right? And once again, it's going to be spoken about in the kingdom. Okay, just like how all these different things were spoken about. Now, if you know the kings of Moab want to write a story, and it, oh man, we remember the day that, you know, America got destroyed. We had so many ships who were gonna make so many deliveries, were gonna become so rich, and then it all got destroyed in 1 hour, right? And then the chariots of Israel came and they beamed up the elect, right? And America got completely destroyed, right? And then after a while, you know, we served slavery, this, that, and the other. So if they wrote that down, does that mean it's a Moabite deliverance story? Now, no. It just means they had a record of it too, right? So ended up being quite long. I didn't expect it to be this long, but Lord's will, that was edifying. Until next time, we say shalom.